The Sunday family dinner started the same way it always did. Everyone walked into the dining room, smiling politely and trying to act happy. At first the atmosphere was calm and friendly, the way it usually is before things slowly turn into little competitions about who is doing better in life. Before I continue, don't forget to subscribe and join our awesome community. It really means a lot. Drop a comment below to tell me where you're watching from and what you think of the story. Let's dive in. We all sat down at the big wooden table. The food smelled nice. Mashed potatoes, warm rolls, green beans and grilled chicken. But before anyone even picked up a fork, Seraphine, my older sister, was already pulling out her phone and showing off pictures. She said, "Look at my home project. My kitchen looks amazing now." She tapped her phone screen over and over, making everyone look at picture after picture. She had shiny white marble countertops that sparkled under bright lights. She had custom cabinets that looked like something from a fancy cooking show. She even added a brand new backsplash on the wall that she'd been talking about for months. "It's so great what owning a house lets you do," Seraphine said in her proud voice, smiling big as she zoomed in on the pictures. "And the money I get from owning the house keeps growing every month. Unlike some people who just throw money away on rent and get nothing back." She said the last part in a sweet voice, but I could tell she meant it as a small jab toward me. She glanced at me just for a second with that look she always gave, like she was pretending to help but really wanted me to feel embarrassed. Mom passed the potatoes to Seraphine and nodded happily. Her face lit up like she was super proud. "Seraphine has always been smart with money," Mom said. "She really knows how to think ahead and make good choices. She's careful and responsible." I didn't say anything. I just kept eating quietly. I was used to this. For years my family treated me like I was the one who didn't do much with my life. They believed I worked at a small consulting firm. They believed my simple Honda car meant I didn't have money. They thought my quiet life meant I wasn't successful. They assumed I rented a tiny apartment because I couldn't afford anything better. Dad cut into his steak a little too hard and said loudly, "Speaking of rent, Thessaly, maybe you should start thinking seriously about your future. You can't just keep renting forever like a college kid. You're 29. People your age are buying homes, building savings, planning ahead." Seraphine leaned back in her chair with a big satisfied smile. She loved being the sister everyone praised. "I totally get it," she told me in a fake kind way. "Not everyone has the credit score or down payment to buy a house. It's hard for some people. But there are programs for first-time buyers. They help people who don't have a lot of money or experience." She said it sweetly, but it sounded like she was patting my head like I was a confused puppy. Seraphine always positioned herself as the sister who had everything perfect. She went to business school, got good grades, and found a fancy job at a huge medicine company. She bought her house at 26 and told everyone she did it through hard work, saving, and planning ahead. Meanwhile, I was just Thessaly, the quiet one, the one who never talked much about work, the one with the modest car and simple clothes. To the family, I wasn't interesting or impressive. They thought I lived a small life. Uncle Octavian jumped into the conversation next. He always liked talking about my problems whenever the family discussed how great Seraphine was. "The housing market is very competitive right now," he said, chewing loudly. "It's hard. You need a lot of money, great credit, and a big down payment. Not everyone can do that. Some people just aren't ready for that level of responsibility." I nodded politely and took another bite of green beans. I had heard comments like this many times before. This was normal for me. "You're probably all right," I said calmly. Seraphine continued talking, waving her hand dramatically. "There's nothing wrong with renting," she said. "Some people just can't handle owning a house. You have to take care of repairs, taxes, insurance, and HOA fees. It's a lot of adult responsibilities. It's not for everyone." Mom reached across and patted my hand gently, her face filled with a mix of concern and disappointment. "Maybe you could start with something small, dear. A tiny condo or a simple townhouse. Something you can manage slowly." Dad didn't even try to hide his comment this time. He muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear, "If she can even qualify for a mortgage." The dinner continued for a long time, another hour and a half. Seraphine talked about her new job promotion to senior marketing manager. She talked about her next big dream house, a giant one with a 3-car garage and a swimming pool. Everyone listened to her excitedly. I stayed quiet, answering when someone spoke to me but mostly letting them talk. I had played this same role for years. When we finished eating and started cleaning up, Seraphine trapped me in the kitchen while the others moved to the living room for dessert. She gave me a sympathetic look that didn't look real at all. "I hope you're not upset about what Dad said," she said sweetly. "We just want you to succeed, Thessaly." "I know," I said, rinsing plates. "If you ever want advice about getting approved for a mortgage," she continued, "I know a really nice real estate agent. He helps people with smaller budgets. People who need a patient guide." I thanked her politely even though I didn't need any of her advice. Driving home, I thought about everything they had said. Nothing surprised me. For years the family dinners had been like a play with the same script. Seraphine bragged. They all clapped. I stayed quiet. They judged me. It happens every week. But there was one thing they didn't know. One thing no one even suspected. I had been paying Seraphine's mortgage for the last 2 years. It started one night when my phone rang. Seraphine was crying loudly. She sounded scared and desperate. She said the big pharmaceutical company she worked for was firing many employees. Her whole department was getting removed. She would lose her job in a week. She cried even harder and said, "Thessaly, my mortgage is $3,200 every month. I have enough savings for maybe 6 weeks. If I'm really careful. I can't lose this house. I worked so hard for it." She begged me not to tell Mom or Dad. She said she couldn't handle them knowing she was failing. The idea of not looking perfect terrified her. So I helped. I set up an automatic transfer from my business account to hers. I paid her $3,200 mortgage every month so she could focus on finding a new job. It was supposed to be temporary. But when she finally got a new job, it paid $30,000 less each year. She told me she would pay me back once she got promoted or found something better. But she didn't. And I still paid. Month after month. While she bragged about owning her home, I was the one making it possible. While she lectured me about thinking ahead, it was my money keeping her afloat. While the family bragged about her success, they ignored me, the person quietly covering her bills. But I didn't mind keeping the secret. I didn't want to embarrass her. And honestly, I was tired of trying to prove anything to my family. They had already decided who I was. Nothing I said would change their minds. And the job they thought I had? The tiny consulting firm? That was just a story I used so they wouldn't ask questions. My real work was running a property management company I built myself over 5 years. I owned 17 rental homes all over the city. They brought in more than enough money each month. So paying Seraphine's mortgage didn't really hurt me. It was just an extra bill. But explaining that to my family would require telling them everything. About my business, my money, my success, and the lies Seraphine told them about being the perfect child. So I kept quiet. Monday morning came and I started my usual routine. I sat down at my desk with my warm cup of coffee. I opened my laptop and looked at all the reports from my rental houses. I saw messages from Alara, my property manager, who took care of daily work like repairs, cleaning, and talking to tenants. She handled most things so I could focus on buying more houses and planning for the future. And I smiled to myself. Because while my family still thought I was the quiet, simple, not successful one, I knew the truth. And honestly, that was enough for me. My 17 houses were all doing really, really well. Almost all the people who lived in them stayed there every month and the places were always full. When a house has people living in it all the time, we say the occupancy rate is high. Mine was almost 100%, which is very good. Each month the rent money I collected kept going up a little because lots of people wanted places to live and the market was strong. It was a good time to own houses and I was happy about it. One day during my weekly phone call with Alara, the lady who helps me take care of all my houses, she said something exciting. "The Riverside house is doing great," she told me. "We have many people who want to live in it. 3 different people have already applied and all 3 are very good choices. They even said they would pay more money than we asked for. We had put the rent at $2,600, which was already a normal price. But Alara said, we could probably ask for $2,800. Maybe even $2,900 if we pick carefully." I thought about it for a moment, then agreed. "Okay, raise the price," I said. After that, I moved on to looking over papers that showed how much money I spent fixing a duplex downtown. I liked checking things like that because it helped me know how well everything was going. My business was doing wonderful, even better than wonderful actually. The real estate market was strong, and that meant my houses were becoming worth more and more money. They were getting more valuable each year. At the same time, they were bringing in rent money, which I used to buy even more houses. Everything felt like it was working in my favor. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text message from Seraphine. She wrote, "Thanks again for dinner last night. Mom loved having the whole family together. And I'm excited about the new kitchen backsplash. I'm already thinking about redoing the master bathroom next. You know how house projects go, there's always something to fix." I looked at the message for a long time. Her message was cheerful and happy, but I knew something she didn't want to think about. Redoing the bathroom would cost a lot of money, maybe $15,000 or even $20,000. And Seraphine didn't have that kind of money. She would have to use credit cards again or take out more loans. She always had trouble paying those back, especially because her job didn't pay as much anymore. That evening I made a big decision. It was a decision I had been thinking about for many, many months, but I had not said out loud yet. First I called Alara. "Hi Alara," I said in a calm business-like voice. "I need you to stop taking the monthly payment from Seraphine Matthews for the Riverside property." "The $3,200 payment?" she asked. "The one that comes in automatically every month?" "Yes," I said. "Stop it. Next month." Alara sounded confused. "Are you sure? If her bank is having trouble, I can set up a different way for her to pay." "No," I said more firmly. "Don't take any more payments from her at all. Not in any way. I will talk to her myself." Alara stayed professional. "Understood. Should I send her a message telling her the change?" "No," I said. "I will tell her." After that call, I talked to my accountant about taxes. The money Seraphine gave me every month wasn't counted as rent. It was counted as a family loan, which made taxes easier. I wanted to know what would happen once I stopped taking those payments. We talked everything through carefully. Then came the hardest part, calling Seraphine herself. When she picked up the phone, she sounded cheerful. "Hey Thessaly. What's up?" She sounded happy and relaxed, like she believed I would always be there to help her with money forever. "We need to talk about the monthly mortgage payments," I said. I didn't joke or start with small talk. I just said it simply. Her voice changed right away. She sounded nervous. "What about them? Is something wrong with the bank?" "They're stopping," I said. "Next month will be the last payment I make." There was a long silence. A very long one. Felt like half a minute with no words at all. I could hear her breathing faster, like she was scared. "What do you mean stopping?" she finally said. "Thessaly, I can't pay the whole mortgage myself. My job doesn't pay enough. And I have other bills too. I thought we had a plan. I thought we agreed on this. It worked for both of us." "We did have an agreement," I said. "But it was for 24 months. 2 whole years. And I can't keep doing it forever." "But Thessaly, I'm finally getting better with my money," she cried. "The bathroom renovation will make the house worth more. And maybe I'll get a promotion next year. I just need more time." I listened to her promises. She said the same things almost every month for 2 years. "I just need a little more time. I might get a better job. I can pay you back someday." But nothing ever changed. "Seraphine," I said gently, "I can't keep paying your mortgage while you give me lectures about money and building equity." "What?" she said. "I don't lecture you." "Yes you do," I said calmly. "Last night at dinner you talked for over an hour about how I should buy a house and stop renting. You said I should build equity and invest." She went quiet. She realized how strange that sounded, telling me to buy property while I was secretly paying her mortgage. "That's different," she finally whispered. "I was just trying to help." "You were giving me advice about building wealth," I said, "while I'm the one paying for your house." Her voice got smaller. "I appreciate you, Thessaly. I can't lose this house. It would ruin me. Everyone would know I can't afford it. It would be embarrassing. I don't want the family to find out." "That's not my problem anymore," I said quietly. "I've done what I can." She cried more and promised new plans and new timelines, but I couldn't believe those promises anymore. I felt bad for hurting her feelings, but I also felt like a heavy weight was finally being lifted off me. 3 days later, Seraphine called all of us and said we needed a family meeting. She sounded scared and tired. When we arrived at Mom and Dad's house Thursday evening, Seraphine's eyes were red, like she had been crying for days. She looked like she hadn't slept at all. "I need to tell everyone something important," she said. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Mom asked right away. Seraphine took a shaky breath. "I've been having money problems. Serious problems. I can't afford my mortgage. I haven't been able to for a long time. Someone has been helping me keep the house. Dad leaned forward. What kind of help? A bank loan? A second mortgage? No, Seraphine whispered. Thessaly has been paying my whole mortgage for the past 2 years. The whole room froze. It went so silent that it felt like time stopped. Uncle Octavian finally said, Thessaly? You were paying. I nodded. Yes. The monthly payment was $3,200. I paid all of it since she lost her job. Dad started to say something then stopped. He looked embarrassed. You were going to say I don't have the money to help anyone, I said gently. Because you think I don't make much. Mom's face looked confused. How could you afford that? You work at that little consulting firm. My consulting firm manages $12 million in real estate, I said quietly. And I own 17 rental properties myself. Seraphine's mortgage is only about 8% of the rent money I collect each month. The room exploded with shock. Their eyes were wide. Their mouths dropped open. 17 properties? Uncle Octavian repeated, almost whispering. I started with one duplex 5 years ago, I explained. I used the rent money from that place to qualify for loans to buy more houses. It's a normal real estate plan. I took a paper out of my purse. It showed all my properties how much they were worth and how much rent they made. Alara made it for me in case I ever needed to explain things clearly. Dad picked up the paper. His hands were shaking. This says your properties are worth $4.2 million. Right, I said. Though the value has been going up, it might be even more now. Seraphine wiped her eyes. She looked embarrassed and angry at the same time. I never wanted it to go on this long, she said. I thought I'd get a better job. I thought I'd be able to pay Thessaly back. I thought everything would work out. Mom looked sad. Why didn't you tell us Thessaly was helping you? Because you all think she's the family failure. Seraphine suddenly yelled. Her face turned red with frustration. And then the room went silent again. Every single family dinner always felt the same. Mom and Dad and everyone else would talk about how successful I was and how Thessaly, my sister, needed to get her life together and make better choices. It was exhausting because it seemed like no matter what I did, the conversation always came back to my achievements and Thessaly's failures. But what they didn't know was that I, the successful sister, had been secretly helping Thessaly with money for a long time. How was I supposed to explain that to everyone? How could I tell them that Thessaly, who always acted like she was doing fine, actually needed help from me, the one they thought was struggling to give advice? When I finally started to speak, the room became very quiet. Everyone looked shocked as they slowly realized what I was saying. So, when you've been giving me advice about saving money and buying property, I said to Seraphine, leaving my sentence unfinished so everyone could feel the weight of it. Seraphine's face fell. I know exactly how it sounds, she said softly and miserably. I wanted people to think I had it all together. I worked so hard to buy that house, and when I couldn't afford it anymore, I couldn't bear to admit it to everyone. I didn't want to be seen as a failure. Dad cleared his throat. Thessaly, I owe you a serious apology. We all do. We've been completely wrong about your situation for years. Wrong about a lot of things, he said slowly, clearly meaning every word. I nodded calmly. Yes, you were. But I want to ask, why didn't you ever notice or ask me? Why did you all just assume? Mom looked genuinely confused. All these years we thought you were struggling financially. We thought you were barely making ends meet. We made guesses about your career and what you could or couldn't afford. Why didn't you tell us the truth? I explained gently. Because it didn't matter what you thought about me. I didn't need your approval to build a profitable business. But I did get tired of giving money to Seraphine while she lectured me about being smart with my finances. That was hard. Really hard. Uncle Octavian was still staring at the papers showing all my properties and investments. You've been quietly carrying all this financial success for years, he said, shaking his head in disbelief. And meanwhile we treated you like you were the one failing. We assumed things and gave advice you didn't ask for. We treated you like family disappointment. I shrugged. Real estate is boring, really. It's not dramatic or exciting. You buy properties, you take care of them, collect rent, and then invest the money you earn into more properties. That's it. Steady and boring. It doesn't make for an exciting dinner conversation. Seraphine sniffled and looked up. What happens now with the house? She asked quietly. That's your problem to solve, I said firmly. You have 30 days to figure out how to cover your mortgage without my help. She looked shocked. I can't do that. You know I can't afford it with my salary. That's impossible. Then sell the house, I said. Find a smaller place you can actually afford or find a way to earn more money. I'm not paying for your lifestyle anymore. I can't. The room fell into a long silence. Everyone seemed uncomfortable. Some people said sorry, but it sounded half-hearted and not very real. Dad promised he would be more supportive in the future and less judgmental. Mom said she had always believed in me, even if she had acted differently before. Uncle Octavian, who had doubted me before, even asked me for investment advice, which felt a little funny given everything he had said about my money in the past. Over the next few weeks, Seraphine started looking at her options with worry. She listed the house for sale and began checking out smaller condos and townhouses she could actually afford. The big plans she had for renovating her bathroom, adding expensive furniture and other fancy improvements were quietly abandoned. The hardest part for her was finally accepting that she had to live within her real means. For 2 full years, my financial support had allowed her to live a life far above what she could truly afford. Now she had to make real choices about her spending and her lifestyle. At the next family dinner, everything felt different. Seraphine was no longer showing off expensive projects or giving financial advice. Instead, she talked about her house hunting and her plans to downsize. Dad asked smart questions about my real estate work, curious about how I handled my investments. Mom wanted to understand how I had quietly built a successful portfolio over the years. Uncle Octavian listened attentively instead of making judgmental remarks. I still can't believe you never told us about your success, Seraphine admitted over dessert. Her voice carried a mix of admiration and frustration. All those times we commented on your small apartment or your job. I never realized. I live in a small 1-bedroom apartment because I don't need much space, I said patiently. I use my money to buy income-producing assets, not to spend on a fancy lifestyle or to impress other people. But you could afford a luxury condo or a nice house, she said. Yes, I could, I said. But just because I can afford something doesn't mean I should buy it. I make choices about my money based on what grows my wealth, not on appearances. The conversation that night felt very different from all previous dinners. Instead of competition or judgment, there was curiosity and honest conversation. Seraphine was still adjusting to living within her actual means, but she seemed somewhat relieved to stop pretending she was financially perfect. A month later, Seraphine found a qualified buyer for her house. She purchased a smaller condo that fit comfortably within her real budget. The money she earned from selling her house paid off her credit card debt and gave her a small emergency fund for any unexpected expenses. It's actually really nice, she said when I helped her move into the new condo. It's smaller, obviously, but I don't have to constantly worry about paying the mortgage. And I don't have to pretend to be something I'm not financially. The family dynamics continued to shift over time. Dad started asking for my advice on financial matters, wanting to learn from my experiences. Mom showed genuine interest in how I had built my business so successfully and quietly. Uncle Octavian, who had doubted me for so long, now treated me with respect. But the biggest change was in my relationship with Seraphine. Without financial dependence and the need for pretense, we could finally be honest with each other about our lives. She worked hard to rebuild her financial independence, and I learned to be more open about my successes and long-term goals. Sunday dinners became more balanced. Everyone had a chance to speak, share their experiences and ask questions. Seraphine spoke openly about searching for a job with better pay, and I talked about my property acquisitions and market trends. I feel so bad about all those years I took your money while giving advice about your life choices, Seraphine said one day months later during a private conversation. It taught me something valuable, I replied. Family help shouldn't come with strings attached, but it also shouldn't prevent someone from facing reality. Helping someone through a temporary crisis is very different from subsidizing a lifestyle that they can't really afford. Looking back, those 2 years of secretly helping Seraphine had been manageable from a business perspective, but emotionally exhausting. I learned the difference between helping someone in a genuine emergency and enabling a permanent lifestyle that was unrealistic. I also learned how important it is to set boundaries to protect both my money and my emotional well-being. Seraphine's house sale closed on a Tuesday afternoon in November. That evening she sent me a text message. First mortgage payment on the condo paid entirely from my own account. Feels absolutely amazing. Thank you for everything you did and for finally saying no when you needed to. Her message felt like closure to a chapter that had lasted far too long. Seraphine was learning to live authentically within her means, while I learned to set boundaries and protect my resources. The family had gradually adjusted to understanding everyone's actual circumstances and abilities. There were no more assumptions about who was successful or who was struggling based purely on appearances. There were no more lectures about financial responsibility from someone who couldn't actually afford the lifestyle they claimed to have. Most importantly, there were no more monthly transfers of money to maintain someone else's illusion of prosperity while being treated as the family disappointment. That, I realized, was definitely worth celebrating. Over time, Seraphine became more responsible with her finances. She created a budget, tracked her expenses, and saved for emergencies. She even started thinking about investing some money herself, though slowly and carefully. It was inspiring to see her grow into her independence. I, on the other hand, learned to share my successes with the family in a way that wasn't boastful. I felt more comfortable talking about my goals and achievements, and I could finally celebrate my hard work without anyone feeling threatened or jealous. The family dinners continued, but now they were completely different from before. Conversations were no longer focused on judgment, competition, or comparing lives. Instead, we talked about real things: our goals, our challenges, our successes, and our plans for the future. Seraphine and I could share honestly without feeling the need to pretend or compete. Dad asked thoughtful questions about investments, and Mom seemed genuinely interested in understanding business strategies. Uncle Octavian even admitted he had learned a lot from watching me manage my finances. Seraphine looked happier. She no longer worried about pretending or about what people thought of her lifestyle. She was learning that living within your means can be peaceful and freeing, even if it feels limiting at first. She no longer had to stress about mortgage payments, credit card debt, or keeping up appearances. Instead, she was making choices that were smart and sustainable. Our relationship improved more than I could have hoped. We became honest about our mistakes, supportive of each other's goals, and genuinely proud of each other's successes. The past years of tension and misunderstanding slowly faded, replaced by trust, respect, and love. I realized that helping someone doesn't always mean giving them money. Sometimes it means letting them face reality and supporting them in learning how to handle life responsibly. Seraphine's growth reminded me of that truth every day. We both learned valuable lessons about honesty, responsibility, and family support. Finally, our family could celebrate real successes, small victories, and hard work without judgment or envy. We learned to value effort over appearances, honesty over pretending, and support without enabling. And that, I knew, was a lesson worth keeping forever.